Troublesome times are here, filling men's hearts with fear. Freedom we all hold dear, now is at stake. Humble your heart to God, save from the chastening rod. Seek the way pilgrims trod, Christians away. My Jesus is coming soon, morning or night or noon.
Hey, thanks for joining us and sharing your time with us. You're going to be so surprised today because we're going to really be blessed today because we have in our studio none other than the Mayor of Nashville, MayorKarlDean.
Good to be here.
Thank you for coming.
That's my pleasure. Thank you.
You just made my year today. This is great. Nashville's a great place, isn't it?
Nashville is a wonderful city. I say all the time that I feel fortunate to be the mayor of a city who, and I sincerely believe this, that our best days are still ahead of us.
I think you're right. And I think you've done a very good job in helping to point our city in that direction. And as you know, back when the campaigns, because you and I met and talked, I was a Buck Dozier supporter.
Right.
And I am impressed with how well you've done in helping the greater Nashville, the whole city of Nashville. And I'm just impressed with things. What do you think are some of the greatest things you've accomplished here?
Well, I hope that the number one legacy we have is our commitment to public education. You know, you can't really point to specific things, but during the difficult economic time with this Great Recession, we have maintained our commitment to public education. We've increased school funding each year while we were cutting almost all areas of the government. And I do sincerely believe that the future in Nashville really depends upon us getting the education piece right. You know, I think the cities that are really going to do well are going to be the cities that have good schools, produce a lot of high school graduates, and then produce a lot of college graduates. And that's the direction we're on. You know, that the work will continue long after I'm gone, but that I hope is what we're able to set the city on the right course more than anything else.
You served as public defender.
Right.
Did you appoint Dawn to take your place, or how did she get that job after you left?
Well, when I left the public defender's office. I was elected 3 times, and I left in 1999 to become the city's law director. And when I left the office, the council selected Ross Alderman to be the public defender, and then he ran and he won. And then Ross tragically was killed in a motorcycle accident.
I remember that.
And when Ross died, Dawn was selected by the council, and she's somebody who I hired, and so, you know, was very happy that she received the position because I think she does a great job.
Well, she thinks the world of you. She's been a guest on here a few times.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
good.
yeah, and she thinks the world of you and has a great admiration for you. The reason I'm bringing up the public defender because I do inner city ministry, as you well know.
Right.
You know my people. And when you're talking about education, that really touches my heart because I know you're a family man. How many children you have?
3.
You have 3 children. Children are precious. And I see so many of my children, and I call the inner city community, my people, that are not doing well in school. They are really struggling. What are some of the steps that you can take and I can take? And what are some of the, not just Band-Aid fixes, what do you think are going to be the real fixes to help a child that's growing up in hopelessness to settle down and get an education?
Well, there are several things, and you know, my public defender experiences, I did that for 16 years. I was an assistant before I was elected public defender. Has really formed a lot of my beliefs as to what the government should do and the importance of education.
That was a great serving ground, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. It was.
It
I mean,
lets you know. Yes, I think it's great.
But you know, one of the things I saw over and over again was that probably 90% of our clients or more, the adult clients, were high school dropouts. And then I represented a lot of kids in juvenile court who were accused of some very serious things. I mean, very sad cases. And the vast majority of those kids were chronic truants. I mean, they just never showed up for school. No one did anything about it. And it was like they were on a path from the moment they were born that they were going to end up in custody. And to me, I think one of the key things we have to do, and we've made some strides on this, is to really focus on this issue of truancy. Probably the most disturbing thing that was in existence when I became mayor was sort of the lack of attention that the schools were paying to attendance. I mean, there was sort of this attitude, kids don't come to school, no big deal. You know, we can't educate them anyway. And then we told them you need to start taking attendance regularly, every period. And then if a kid's not in school, we need to reach out to the kid, find out what the problem is, work with the families, work with the schools, and get them back into school. There are no, in my mind, there are no throwaway people in our society.
That's good. Thank you.
And so what we did was we created, and it's near here, an attendance center over in the Old East Precinct, where if a kid's picked up for loitering or being truant, he's brought to the attendance center instead of being brought to juvenile court. And when he goes to the attendance center, you have the police, social workers, the schools, the juvenile court work to get the kid back into school. And I think we've reduced truancy by over 40%.
That's major.
Yeah, and that you can't, if the kids aren't in school, you can't educate them.
That's right.
So that's fundamentally, I think, a key thing. The other thing is, being supportive of our public schools. We need to make sure that they're properly funded, and we need to make sure that they're getting quality educations. We've brought in programs like Teach for America, the New Teachers Project. I've raised the money privately for Teach for America, and that's embedded in our schools now. Another program I'm particularly proud of is our after-school programming. Nashville, I discovered, really lagged behind other major cities in having after-school programming available. So we created a program to create after-school programming, which includes tutoring, cultural education, fun things, but a safe place for kids to go after school. And we've got that in a good portion of the city. We need to keep growing it, but I think that's vital too.
Our children tell me, the children we work with tell me one of the reasons they come with us is not because we're a Christian organization, because we study the Bible or we teach them, or because of church connection. It is a safe place.
Right. Well,
they want to be with, they say when they were, we did a survey, 98% of our children said they felt safe when they were with us. The other one couldn't read the question, I guess, they missed it, but it was, they felt safe. And I find that, here's what I'm finding, Mayor, our children that come, and let me just talk a second here, and you tell me whether I'm right or wrong, but this is what I'm finding on our children. They don't know who Daddy is all too often, or Daddy's not active in their life. I don't want to say they don't know who Daddy is, because a lot of them know who the fathers are, but their fathers are not active in their life.
Right.
So their mother loves them, but does not have the skill to be a parent. So the child, in order to survive, builds a wall around themselves as early as 3 and 4 years old, not to take in new information, which sets them up for failure for when it comes to go to school and so forth. So the term they use when they go to school, they visit. They're not going to do homework. They're not going to take in new information. And that's done out of innocence to protect themselves. And you saw them in the public defender's office.
Right. Well, you think about kids, middle school kids going home to either an empty home or being out on the streets. Number one, they're endangered. I mean, they're physically endangered. And then number two is, some of them are going to get into trouble, which sets them down a path that doesn't lead anywhere positive. So having a place for them to go where they can do positive things and continue learning is important. We've also done some work with our health department in terms of trying to educate fathers on what the responsibility is of a good father.
Now, how's that going?
It's an education process. I think it's going well, but it's a big uphill battle. But it's a fight worth fighting.
I think you're right. I think that's our biggest one of our biggest obstacles out there.
Right. No, I agree. And this grant is it's not huge, but it's a start, and that's a real positive message we need to send. All these kids, and you know better than I do because you spend so much time with them. When you talk to them, that brightness, that gleam in their eye is there, and they can do almost anything. But you got to give them the opportunity and the structure they need to get it done. I'm sure when I grew up in a very stable sort of middle class family, and if I didn't have that structure, I'd be a different person.
Right.
I mean, I don't blame these kids. I mean, it's just what you're brought up in, and you got to have a way to get them out of that.
When they raised in themselves, and that's what a lot of them are doing is raising themselves, they don't have the tools. That's the reason God gave them parents to start with.
Right.
These fathers, we've got to have a all-out effort. I think churches can get more involved in this, and I hold churches, and you can't say this, but I really have an issue with churches. And if you folks going to church out there somewhere, you need to ask your church leaders. This is from Lytle, this is not from the mayor. What are you doing to help fathers be the kind of fathers they need to be? And we need to the Christian community needs to get involved in people's lives outside your church buildings. I mean, you've heard me say this 1,000 times. We got to get involved in our community because it's our community. And they're God's people, and we need to get out there and get involved in them. Mayor, we got to do more to helping fathers not be afraid of fatherhood.
Right. And I think your point about churches is well taken. One of the things I've really come to appreciate is the role that churches and faith-based nonprofits play in our city. When I think of the great work you do, I think of what the Union Mission does in terms of homelessness.
Isn't that a good program?
Right.
Oh, it's great.
And that is, they don't get city money or other government money because there's a faith connection there, which is fantastic. But it's important that people be supportive of them, and that's why we were together out at the fairgrounds recently at one of your dinners, which are fundraising for your organization. Why I'm supportive is because you're filling a vacuum that needs to be filled, and you're filling it in a way that the government can't do, and you're filling it in a way that's very positive. And so, I just applaud you and encourage others to follow your lead, because it's not good if we rely on government for everything. We need to be relying on the private sector and the faith-based community too.
I have a philosophy that I'm preaching hard and heavy at the inner city communities and to them. God gave us the family first. He gave us the church to save the family. He gave us the government to protect the family. But the family is God's small group. And my philosophy is when the family delegates its responsibility off to the church, and the church delegates its responsibility off to the government is set up to where it cannot function.
Right.
And I think you're right, and I think this is demonstrated in your leadership here in Nashville, that we've got to get families doing what families are supposed to do.
Right.
And I think with your leadership, we need more effort in that, and we need more people involved in it. One of the things I advocate all the time, if you're comfortable in your family and you got you and your wife and you 2 or 3 children, pick up a child that doesn't have a family. Add that child to your family. Take them to activities, take them to ball games, take them to cookouts, take them to the park. Spend time with that child and sort of adopt that child. And it's a lot of love. Love goes a long way. And believing in people, Mayor, as you well know, makes the biggest difference in a child's life.
Right.
A child can get hope, as you well know.
Hope is the key.
Hope is the key.
And I think that's one of the great things about Nashville I do truly believe that our best days are ahead of us. And I think this city has a lot of hope. It has a lot of positive energy. And so that just needs to be communicated to the people who don't have it in the city. As the city advances and moves forward, we got to be inclusive. We can't leave people behind. Going back to this idea there are no throwaway people, we got to reach out to others and bring them with us.
What's it going to take to get all this done? Now, am I being redundant, or is this making sense? So what do you need from all of us in Nashville?
Well, I think, Nashville is a great community because we do have a lot of strong nonprofits. We have a very strong faith community. Another thing I really appreciate about this city more now than I did before I became mayor is the importance of the faith community. People all the time say, and I talk about this when I'm promoting tourism and hospitality, but people all the time say Nashville is the friendliest city they've ever been in. And we come out, and when people rank cities by how friendly they are, we're always near the top. And I think that owes a lot to the faith community. And that's something we don't talk about enough, that if people in our city are going to church and they're active in their churches, part of that kindness, part of that friendliness comes from their church involvement. And I think that's a unique thing we have, and we need to strengthen that. Now, I think we have a great base of volunteers and people who want to help, and we need to somehow mobilize folks where they're getting involved with your organization, or they're getting involved in their church, or they're getting involved in other efforts to help young people who need the help. And I'm confident that we can get there. A great example to me is the flood.
Yes,
I mean,
that's a landmark
yeah,
example there.
I mean, Nashville became sort of the poster child for volunteerism, poster child for people behaving and people doing what's right. And it's channeling that sort of energy, that sort of concern about their community to tougher issues. I mean, dealing with this issue about youth in poverty is a tougher issue than dealing with a flood cleanup. It just is. It's a lot more complicated.
Are you involved in feeding the children that after school and these take home? See, we work with Second Harvest, and we are feeding 800 children. Oh, we take 800 of those backpacks they call about, those sacks of groceries. We pass out about 800 and 900 of those a week to children. And I find that our children are hungry a lot of times.
No, there's one of my staff members told me the story about a young child who was in school and after school programming and wasn't paying attention. They couldn't get the kid to focus on the reading, and so the teacher in the after school program said, what's the issue? Do you have a bad day at school, or is something wrong at home, or is somebody mistreating you? And the child said, I'm hungry. And so the teacher said, well, are your brothers hungry too? And they said, no, they're not hungry because they went to school today. I had to go to the dentist. I didn't go to school, so I didn't get my lunch. And one of the things we have to realize is for some of these kids, that's the only good meal they're going to get the whole day. And so it's real important as we go into the summer months, and our Metro Action Commission is working on this, and Second Harvest, which is a great organization too, is that when you have different social programs for kids during the summer, after school type programs, that feeding the kids is important, and that the federal government actually is encouraging people that even if they're not part of the program, those other kids can come in and eat. Because you can't teach a child, or you can't get a child to focus if the child's hungry. I mean, that's just so fundamental.
And it's right here in Nashville, Tennessee. We're not talking about off in another continent, on another continent somewhere. We're talking about right here. And there's a lot. I've found that we have children sleeping on concrete floors. And so we try to give them out as mattresses, as many mattresses as we can, just so that they have something. They don't have a bed, but they got a mattress. They can sleep on that. That's better than sleeping on a concrete floor.
Right.
And it is so important to feed our children. I was at one of our learning centers one night, and they didn't fix much to eat that night. And we had a parent that went that night, and she came to me and told me, said, you got to feed the children. They're hungry. You got to feed the children. So we've really ratcheted up. So every time the children are with us, we feed them. And that really has worked out to benefit us, to benefit the children, benefit the community, benefits the home, benefits everybody.
Right.
And so I think that is, and I appreciate your leadership in that. I want to just encourage people at churches to get involved in feeding people. If you want to work through the rescue mission, work through the rescue mission, but get involved in feeding people, because we don't want anybody being hungry in our city.
No, I mean, there's no reason for it.
That's right.
There's no reason for it.
Because we're rich people.
Right.
We got the ability to do so. What's some of the things that you've been working on? Budgets. I see you on television.
Right.
I cannot for the life of me. My little budget, just so small compared. What is a budget for the city of Nashville?
Well, it's about $1 billion. I mean, we're going through
zeros.
It's a lot of zeros. We're going through the process of preparing a budget, which I present to the council on May 1st. And as you know, the last 4 years have been particularly difficult because of the recession. And we've actually seen, 1 year in particular, early in the recession, where the amount of money that the government brought in for the first time since Metro was created was lower than the year before. And that was attributable to sales tax just not being collected. People weren't buying things. People weren't buying cars, people weren't buying homes, so just everything froze. Those were difficult years to work through the budget. And probably one of the things I am proud of is that during that time, and we've continued it, and we'll continue it in this budget, is that we have really focused on supporting public safety, particularly the police.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, we've increased the number of police officers fairly dramatically. When I got into office, we've got them, after a year and a half, we got them up to full staffing. We added 50 officers on top of that with the COPS grant, which we're going to have to pick up this year, which is fine. And then we focused on schools. So while I'm cutting most Metro departments over the course of 4 years, 10% or more, we have supported the basics, public safety and education.
And that's where your passion is.
Right.
And that's where it needs to be.
Right.
I think that's good for us.
Well, I mean, I think you got to just, I mean, I think government is you got to pick your priorities, pick the things that matter, and I think there's probably universal agreement that we want to be in a safe city, in a city with good schools.
School's going to pay off for you.
I hope so.
I know they will. I know they will. If people can work, they'll make money.
Yep.
And if they can get a job, they'll make money. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, and we won't go back through that again, but we've got to get these fathers in these homes, and we've got to teach a work ethic. And it's going to start with children being educated, knowing how to do it. And education is growing so much. I commend you when you work at schools. Glencliff Elementary, my little granddaughter you met the other night, she goes to Glencliff Elementary, and my hat's off to them. They have done a great job with this child, and you know this child's family, and this child's doing well. And Glencliff Elementary has really helped her to grow and to take and make school a joy for her. She looks forward every morning going to school, and that speaks well for you, Mayor. I think you can be commended for that.
Well, we're going to keep working on it, and like I say, I mean, I think Nashville has gone through, in terms of public education, we go through these periods where for 2 years or so we're focused on schools, we're putting money into schools, and then there's either some political dispute between the branches of government about schools, or whether there's a lack of interest, a consensus in the community to keep investing in schools, and we back off. And to make the progress we need to make is you just got to be consistent and make education a priority every year and stick to it.
I don't think people are aware of how difficult it is from your position, because it is not middle-class white education. You go into Glencliff High School, and it's not just educating some Southern people in English. You've got people from everywhere in that school system, and they are part of Nashville, and they need an education.
We have probably 70 different languages spoken in our schools. Nashville has had a rising immigration to Nashville, which I think is a sign that the city's doing well. I mean, immigrants are like anybody else. It's like there's a free market out there about where you want to live, and they look around and they decide to live in the places where there's opportunity, where there's a good future. But that presents new challenges to the school system, because English as a second language then becomes a real issue, and the teaching styles have to reflect the diversity of the classroom.
And that's new news to us. And you know, I was helping, which is really a joke, I was helping a little girl with some homework last night, and I'm in bad shape, I can't do it all. And my wife and I were helping her, and I said, you know, this is probably all obsolete because the kids are texting so now.
Right.
And the workplace has changed. Used to, you went to work and you still wear a suit and tie when you go to work because you're mayor. But I see people coming to work in blue jeans, coming to work in shorts in businesses, and the culture's changing. And people are texting, and this rapid social communication is so much different than it was when I grew up.
Oh, even for me too, and I think even from 10 years ago. I mean, the number of computers that are available to people at work, but also the number of computers that are available, whether in the form of a smartphone or an iPad, they're everywhere, and kids have got to be comfortable with that stuff, because that is going to only magnify as years go by.
And this little granddaughter, I can be having a problem with the computer and say, "This is the way you do it, Daddy," and she'll come over and start.
Oh yeah, I can't do my VCR without my daughters doing it for me. Yeah, it's.
We're in a changing time. You said something earlier, and I think I want to come back across this because we don't have but 4 minutes to go. And if there's something else you want to cover, you tell me, and I'll let you take off. But 90% of the children, when you were public defender, 90% of them were dropouts.
Well, the adults had dropped out. You know, I remember, because when you're a public defender, you're doing a lot of clients. You have a form you fill out to get the information you have to have. And one of the questions you always ask is, how far did you go in school? Because you want to know how literate they are and whether they understand what you're saying. And, you know, it was a rare day when you had a high school graduate. And, you know, there are bad people in the world who do bad things because they're just bad. I mean, there is evil. I accept that. But
there's not a lot of those people.
There's not a lot of those people. I agree. And the vast majority of them are folks who, for whatever reasons, because of extraneous factors such as home life, lack of education, the neighborhood, just being disadvantaged, and then they make a series of bad decisions. And they make them when they're young, and that's the scary thing. If a kid gets wrapped up in the juvenile court process when they're 12 years old or 13 or 14, that sets them on a course that is really hard to break. And so anything we can do in those, particularly those years, is vitally important. And also, most adult offenders, I'd say, it's probably not as high as 90%, but a large number of the adult offenders I represented had juvenile records. And so it's just this continual trend.
I believe it. Darren told me it's something like 87%. I'm off on percent. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on these percentages, but of the parents who are incarcerated, their children will be incarcerated.
Yeah, there definitely is a correlation between parents being in trouble with the law and children, but I think this is going back to your issue about family, which I think is so important. Even with inmates, if a family unit can stay together during the period of an inmate's incarceration, the chances of that inmate doing well on the outside world are better. Not repeating, and the chances of his or her children not falling into that trap do better. I mean, I think you're so right about the need to have strong families.
We've got to.
Yeah.
We've got to. And the city of Nashville is capable of doing this. We can do better. And I'm not being critical of what we're doing. We can do better. Huh. When my children, excuse me, when my children tell me it's not if I go to prison, when I go to prison, that just breaks my heart. Yeah. And there's so much more we can do for them. Right. And you got 1 minute to go, Mayor. Give a message to our people here in Nashville, and thanks for being here. I tell you what, you make me look good. Go ahead.
Well, I think my message to the people in Nashville is this: is that, as I'm working on the budget and as I go through the next 3.5 years as mayor, I'm going to stay focused. I call them the 3 pitches I have to hit every day. Those are public education, public safety, and economic development. We got to be a city where our kids get quality education, they stay in school, and we're producing a lot of college graduates. We got to be in a position where kids feel that it's safe to go to school, and that when they go to school, they learn. And we got to be in a position where the city's safe, so the businesses want to invest here, they want to grow here, and they want to come here. And then we got to create jobs. And that's why I think economic development is important. I mean, some people don't get it, but I think we've got to be about creating opportunity and jobs every day.
Because jobs produces families, that blesses families.
Right.
And that helps families. Our time is up. Boy, that went quick.
I enjoyed it. Thanks.
You've got a handle on this thing. Would you come back sometime?
Anytime you want me.
You're so kind. You're so kind. I appreciate what you're doing for our city. If there's anything we can do, and I'd like to encourage all of you out here, get involved with a school and help a child, and get involved in people's lives. Thanks for tuning in, Mayor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
God bless you. I'll be praying for you.
Freedom we hold dear, now is that day. Humble your heart to God, save from the chasing rod. Seek the way pilgrims trod, Christians away. My Jesus is coming soon, morning or night or noon. Many will meet their doom. Trumpets will sound, and all of the dead shall rise. Righteous me in the skies. I'm going where no one dies, heavenward bound. What troubles will soon be, or happy forevermore. When we meet on that shore, free from all care. Rising up in the skies, telling this world goodbye. Home and we live.